What's up, everybody? Welcome to the community reaction extravaganza. I have a lot of comments here, so many comments, and we are talking about the Star Beast, Doctor Who's latest episode, the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who and the long-awaited return of David Tennant's 14th Doctor. I released my first reaction video on Saturday and hundreds of you left your own thoughts in the comment section below. As I said in my last video, I want this to serve as a snapshot into the community's thoughts and also to give a voice to you guys, individual comments. And thank you to everyone who left a comment below. Yes, even you. But before that, we have to talk about a few things. First of all, I was wrong. Yep, I admit my faults, my mistakes. I was wrong about the Star Beast and about Disney. Let's talk about it. A couple videos ago, I was talking about Disney and the Disney Plus deal to do with Doctor Who. And I made the claim that Disney wouldn't have that much control over the production. Well, egg on my face, because that appears to have been a bold-faced lie. I'm sorry, guys. I would like to apologize to anyone who I misinformed or was short with in the comments below. It was coming from a place of insecurity, to be honest. I desperately didn't want it to be true. So I try to be as charitable as possible. Take Rusty Davies at his word that they had no influence. But they do. The episode ends with the Disney logo front and center. A lot of the money, the big bucks, are coming from Disney. And for me to pretend that doesn't have an impact on the production behind the scenes would just be disingenuous. Now, for the record, I still take issue with the assertion that this is Disney Doctor Who or Disney Who, but I can't act as if they don't have a lot of sway any longer. But let's talk about the episode. It's been a few days. I'm home now. For those of you who didn't watch the previous video, I was actually away from my house. I had to use this shitty ass mic and I was doing stuff. So I've rewatched the episode twice so far in full and seen a lot of clips again, and I've gotta say, I think I was wrong. Perhaps I treated you too harshly. Me saying this episode is a 3 to 4 to 5 out of 10 is too harsh. It really isn't that bad. In fact, parts of it are pretty good. I've had a chance to really sit down and think about it, analyze parts of it, the themes, all the moving parts, and I've come to really appreciate it actually. Now, I still think that it's flawed. I have my criticisms and would still overall call it the worst Doctor Who anniversary special. But when I said that it was worse than anything in Series 11, yeah, that was too far. I was exaggerating. It is better than Arachnids in the UK, Battle of Ranskorav Kolos, but I do still stand by my statement that most is still better, and I'll talk about that more in a second. Let's talk about the actual episode. The first thing I noticed about the fan reaction was how natural people thought the episode was, and I think that can be attributed to Murray Gold's score. Music is so unimaginably important to a project. Seriously, I actually think it may be the most important aspect. So it isn't really a surprise that bringing back the music which the general audience associates just subconsciously in their mind as Doctor Who music will make people be able to more naturally get into it. My theory for the longest time has actually been the main reason a lot of people don't vibe with the 13th Doctor isn't anything to do with the writing, but actually the music. It really cannot be understated how much it matters what music is playing, and having such a drastic switch up in style can leave the audience feeling disorientated and confused. Now, of course, this isn't a problem for me. I don't have that natural connection between Murray Gold and Doctor Who music in my mind, but most audiences, especially those who have only watched Modern Who, well, they do. So I think part of the reason why so many people clicked with this episode far more than any in the previous era, despite writing wise being around the same level of most of it, is the music. And speaking of which, let's talk about the title sequence. A comment I saw was someone telling me that I was the only person who didn't like the title sequence, but let me explain why I didn't like it, because those of you who have been following me for a while knew that the thing I was actually most excited for in the new era was the title sequence. I love the theme so much, far more than most people actually did, so I really wanted to see what they were gonna do, and in concept I like it, but execution wise It's not that I subjectively hate it or whatever. I just think they actually got it wrong. The music isn't synced. It's really distracting actually. And the choppy, janky editing of it really takes me out. And that's not to mention the ending. They must have made a mistake in the mix because there's this really loud sound. It sounds like breathing. That's definitely not meant to be there. If you listen to the isolated version, that sound is not there. Or if it is, it's way quieter. Also, the ending was very abrupt. I wonder if that was an editing error. The cuts were all very fast in this episode, but we'll talk about that in a second. I've heard theories that the title sequence is cut up or is an edited version of the full thing, and honestly, I see it because this is janky. Okay, here I am with the title sequence. We can look at it now. I'm gonna show you what I mean because this shit annoys me every time I'm seeing it. So, okay, look at this, right? We're going frame by frame. The lighting on the TARDIS is wrong. So immediately, first thing that pops out to me reminds me of the Series 7B titles. Okay, so look at this, right? You're looking at the TARDIS, you're looking at this portion of the screen. Look at where the next cut takes us. It takes us here. Okay, look at this. The audience's eyes are at this point in the screen, so it will feel incredibly unnatural if the audience are then suddenly meant to move their eyes to the complete opposite side of the screen to follow along, especially when the edit is not in time with the music. Also notice how the lighting on the TARDIS is correct now. By the way, this is definitely a cut. There's no way. There's definitely more to the title sequence than just that because the music is way out of sync. Now, I know there's been a lot of thoughts on the crash zoom. Right, this Zack Snyder crash zoom. I personally don't have a problem with it. If anything, it's probably the most interesting part of the title sequence. It's very different. It's probably the most different title sequence we've ever got. But my issue isn't with the concept of it being different. It's more so that it's out of sync with the music, and these editing flubs really take me out of it. And then the cherry on top, they use my spin effect. Can you believe it, guys? They copied me. They used my spin effect on the logo. But do you see what I mean? The lighting on the TARDIS is wrong. The editing is strange. There are weird cuts. The music is out of sync with the thing. Like, look at that. Doesn't this feel like this should be... The whole title sequence is 20 seconds long. I'm going to put a comparison of what the title sequence, how long it usually is on screen right now. But anyway, back to the video. But now we've talked about the sound, let's talk about the episode. Well, no matter what, it was better than End of Time. So, Rusty Davies has improved, it's a step up, but I still think my main problem is the pacing. It's too damn fast, man. If you look, and especially on rewatch, you can tell there is the setup here, but it is just so fast. We're talking frames here, people. Not even seconds, frames. This episode needed to be 90 minutes. Man, if it was that long, it would have been perfect. But there is good stuff here. I'm not going to pretend that Rusty Davies isn't an incredible writer. I mean, all the showrunners are. And while initially I thought the script was quite haphazard, chaotic, maybe an early draft, but no, after going back, there are actually a lot of layers, so many moving parts that come together. There is a method to the madness. It may seem like it's just random shit happening, but no, Rusty Davies took the Star Beast comic, adapted it, and then interwove it with his signature themes that are prevalent in all his work. And additionally, the ideas of not judging a book by its cover, you don't judge the Meep, you don't judge the 14th, don't judge Rose. There is some interesting stuff there. It's all a little too fast though. The resolution comes out of nowhere. Classic ass pull Russell T Davies ending, and the beginning. That opening scene, I'm sorry guys, I don't like it. David Tennant standing in front of a green screen, a green screen, while delivering exposition and saying, "Once upon a time, Lord." Like, bro, that is the second line of the show. What were they thinking? This opening scene, I think, was part of the reason I was so bewildered going in on first watch. I was watching live, right? So imagine for me, I thought this was a preview. I didn't think this was actually a part of the episode. And then we go straight into the out of sync titles. I think you can see why I was thrown for a loop. And then the Doctor meets Donna in the first 20 seconds of the episode. It's too crazy fast, man. Now, I've had to sit and think about it, and I think I would have rather it started like this. Rose is working on her toys. We get a good look at all of them. Donna's there. We can still get all the recap, all the flashbacks with David Tennant's voiceover saying, "If she ever remembers me, she will die." And then Donna's like zoned out with Rose calling her, saying they need to go to the market or something. Then they go off and we get a good look at the shed. We get to see, hey, that looks like the TARDIS. And then, clever trick, we can have a transition from the shed into the TARDIS, into the title sequence. Same information put across sets up the ending, while also not just being David Tennant talking in front of a green screen. I imagine this scene was a late addition. Maybe they looked at the budget and were like, Ah, shit, we got nothing left. But I think if Russell T Davies was handed this script and it wasn't his, maybe someone else asked him to clean it up a bit. I imagine the first thing to go would be that. But on to the positives. As I mentioned in my first video, David Tennant is on top form. I think I prefer him here to a lot of how he was as 10, to be honest. I don't know if that's controversial, but I thought he was great. He had the infectious energy. I would also like to apologize to Catherine Tate. She was great, by the way. I only said she was okay before, but looking back, she's great too. The 2 stars are on point, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters. The scene where the manifold bisects is an example of something not making any sense to me and me not caring, because it creates that sweet juicy drama, baby. Give me more. The reason in my opinion it works is because it's only a small detail, and it works in service of the story and entertainment. And you have David Tennant bouncing around, rolling around. It's wonderful stuff. So I can look over a little lapse in logic like that, you know, examples like that, if it results in entertaining stuff. That's just my mindset though. I like the sonic screwdriver design. I was very apprehensive of it before, but on screen it looks great. We'll talk more about its powers later, but sound design wise it's cool. The 14th Doctor's costume has grown on me. The Noble family were all quite nice, and I barely mentioned it last time. I got a lot of comments saying 5 out of 10 is really high for something you're being so negative about, but that's just because the positives I didn't really feel like mentioning, but they were still there. Beep the Meep is marvelous to have on screen. I love the design, the way it moved, the performance, characterization, everything was perfect for me, as were the Wrath Warriors. I was scared these guys would get the short end of the stick, but no, I really liked them. Good old Doctor Who monsters. I like how the sergeants were mentioned. The homage to the Stones of Blood was very nice. The scene did kind of go a little too fast, but that's more so a problem with the episode as a whole. I think the best part of the episode, writing wise, for me, was when Donna finds the Meep, because you have a great comedic setup with the Meep hiding, something which is truly hilarious. But then you have her reaction, then you have Sylvia's reaction, and it all keeps building until we hear David Tennant's Doctor banging on the door and saying, "Let me in, let me in." And in that moment, it all made sense to me. It made sense why David Tennant was back. It was so that Sylvia could have that moment of realization and say, "You." God, it was great. Just a hilarious scene. It keeps getting more and more bombastic. The energy is high. Everything's great. It really plays to Russell T Davies' strengths as a writer. That moment of, "Oh, of course it's you." Simply brilliant. But that's not my favorite part of the episode. For me, the absolute highlight has to be the new TARDIS being unveiled. It is magical. Truly, it's a magical moment. The music is full of that marigold whimsy, the space, Doctor Who running around like a schoolboy full of wonder and excitement. We, the audience, get to explore this beautiful set, and the lighting and everything is magnificent. And the cherry on top is Donna's "It's gorgeous," with David Tennant's reaction full of just so much energy. It's hard not want to get up yourself. That little jog on the spot, god damn man, that's great stuff. The coffee gag too, thumbs up from me. My only problem, as I mentioned, is the abrupt cut to credits. I wonder if that was cut for time or it was an editing error, maybe. Now, I don't know if this is my favorite TARDIS, but out of New Who, it definitely is the best. I think the 8th Doctors and probably most of the classic designs are one I would rather, but for the new era of the show, this is a whole other level. It incorporates designs from all of the modern TARDISes, with the 11th Doctor's levels and even the 13th Doctor's colours, but the white changing colours depending on the mood, an inspired choice. To then land on the blue and orange that we have been treated to so recently is just a great decision. And the scanner is back. My biggest problem with the 13 TARDIS has been amended. The scanner looks great. So overall, now I have given an update after my multiple rewatches, I can safely say that I was wrong and that I'm raising my assessment of the episode from a 3.45 out of 10 to a 5/6 out of 10. I enjoyed it immensely, but for me, all it did was whet my appetite. I'm more excited than ever for part 2. That's what I'm excited for. Far more than I ever was for part 1. I have complete faith that it's going to be brilliant, and you know what? How about this? No matter what, even if it's the biggest piece of shit in the whole wide world, I'll still love it and call it brilliant. How about that? Well, hopefully I didn't waffle on too long. This video is going to be long enough anyway, but let's get on to what you thought. And so here we are with the poll. As you can see from the results, overwhelmingly positive. However, something to note, while I do not have a screenshot of it. Those of you who had seen the poll yesterday can attest. Originally, this was 50% option 1, best episode ever. So there has been a drastic shift in opinion over the 1 day since it released, which I do think is important to know. But overall, a good episode. But with that out of the way, let's look and see what people have been saying about the episode itself. Here's a great one from Just Tim on Discord. I genuinely loved it. The PC parts were not meant for me to relate to, but as cheesy as it wasn't unnatural. The energy of the episode, the subtle ways in which the 14th is as evolved 10, and the way he doesn't miss anything obvious, it was all so fun. The biggest difference made this fresh, and I described it as if I was watching Doctor Who for the first time again. Same heart, different format, which I don't yet know how to put into words. Also, I came in lighthearted, and it was why the imperfections in the plot felt fun to me. Legitimately, I know this will piss anti-PC people off, but it wasn't playing into that. It was just being its authentic self. Like the unit scientist telling soldiers not to make her the problem when she can't go upstairs. It felt so specifically authentic to how someone like her might feel. It addressed the real world and real people, but not in an inauthentically performative way, rather with authenticity and emotional intelligence, and particularly fun. A great comment, I must say. Now, when it comes to the wheelchair stuff, I felt like no one would have focused on that if there wasn't just the Davros thing that just happened. I know I wouldn't have even noticed, but I know for one that the Davros thing really did put a bad taste in people's mouths. I know from personal experience there was someone who was really excited for it actually, and then the Davros comments came out and then they choose to not watch it, which is pretty damning, all things considered. So yeah, I really don't have any problem with Ruth Madley's character. I think that that is like the right level of cheese, you know, like wheelchair with missiles in it and blow darts. I think the thing that I would take issue with and call inauthentic and performative is the ending, especially. I feel like I've seen so many comments, and I've watched the episode myself, and I've watched it with 2 different sets of people now, and pretty much everyone of people I've seen think that that ending is just too corny, man. Someone who I was watching the episode with, this isn't a comment by the way, said that they felt the episode had been thoroughly focus grouped. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, because as a fan of Doctor Who, and as a fan of writing and consuming content and TV in general, I take great enjoyment in seeing a creator's pure vision. In my opinion, works get more and more creatively bankrupt the more the powers that be are controlling things. Now, I bring this up specifically in Doctor Who's case because of Disney. I hate the idea of big companies meddling with creators' visions. Now, I'm not saying anyone's vision was tampered with here, but what I am saying is that I don't really see episodes of Doctor Who as products that need to be focus group tested, like it's a baby powder formula or something like that. But that's just me. There were certain parts where I thought, this is performative, this is inauthentic, this is unnatural, I must confess. But I will be going more into detail into things that I did like later. Talking of the unit's scientific advisor, Doctor Who said that he was number 1. That's not true. Liz Shaw is the number 1 unit scientific advisor for about 30 minutes until the Doctor shows up, but I'm surprised Rusty Davies would forget that. It stuck out like such a sore thumb to me, but maybe that's because I'm a Pertwee mega fan. Maybe he forgot. Let's look at this guy. A feel-good return to the Rusty Davies style. I like this older feeling version of 10 that 14 seems to be. Same. I thought the Meep looked really good and goofy enough to be lovable before it reveals itself to be ridiculously evil. Donna and her family are great add-ons to the episode. Also, they managed to use the Dr. Donna as a solution to the episode without making it feel cheap. Arguably. However, one of the things that did take me out of it is linked to that solution. It's the binary, non-binary line about Rose. It's just way too and he's using the same words as me. And it's referencing such a specific part of Journey's End. It was the fun kind of corny, so I smiled. But it still lessened the emotional intensity. The other thing I didn't like is a recap at the start. Yeah, I already talked about this. Specifically the Doctor's end of it where he's just standing on a green screen background talking about Journey's End. Anyway, some smaller additional things that I like in the episode are the new TARDIS interior, the overall visual quality, Sean Temple, the new Sonic, and Miriam Margolyes' evil voice for the Meep. And I responded, bro stole my profile pic. I can't believe it. Can't have shit no more, man. That's not all I've stolen. Guys, where's my liver? He stole my heart. I think the reason the binary / non-binary joke, I assume it's a joke. The reason why it doesn't work is because it doesn't make sense. Because the reason Donna was saying binary is because she was short-circuiting. And, you know, it's like a computer. It mirrors a computer when it's broken down. It's not meant to literally represent the the binary of two genders. Even just thinking about it, it just makes no sense. But I do also like how wary David Tennant is playing it. This Doctor takes no shit. He's not a dumbass. He can tell when the unit soldiers have been possessed. He can easily just hop on the back of a unit truck. I assume there's some perception filter at play, blah blah blah. Suspend my disbelief. No one notices Doctor Who prancing around. I don't care. Oh, speaking of which, something I did really like, and I like this since I first watched it, is that UNIT has finally figured out what to do when people are clearly under enemy control. Thank God, guys. It's been multiple decades. Okay, let's look at this one. So I have thoughts. First off, love David and Catherine and Donna's mum. They slid right back into these roles. It was fantastic. The creature animation looked great. The monsters looked classic yet modern, and the color grading of the episode was spot on. The new TARDIS interior was also stunning. It looked so slick and had a new retro feel. I agree. Before we move on to the next part, I want to talk about this part of the comment. This may just be a me thing, but the color grading kind of reminds me of Mandalorian Series 3. I had a real feeling. I was like, I don't really know where I can pinpoint what this is giving me the feeling of. And after a long time sitting down, this episode in general reminds me of Mandalorian Series 3. And depending on who you are, that might be a compliment or that might be an insult. I'll just leave that up to you to decide. So I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with how the episode looks. I feel like Beep the Meep, the CGI it's not like bad or anything. It looks perfectly fine. But also, I don't know, there was just something a little weird there. Just my opinion, of course, not really a real criticism of the episode. Let's continue with the comment. The actor who played Rose, man, was she wooden. Also, to stop the Doctor in the middle of the chase to question his thoughts on the Meep's gender was just so forced. And also goes for the whole answer to the life-changing meta-crisis issue being to be non-binary and let go. I'm sorry that blagged my head so bad. I'm actually incredibly liberal on these issues, but here it felt a bit shoehorned in. Not liberal enough, it seems. Get him, boys. I'm just kidding. I would have preferred a bit of nuance like how Rusty Davies did it back in the day. I also thought the pacing was a little weird and it seemed to wrap up the meta-crisis issue a little too quickly for me. So other than the shoehorned in issues, I enjoyed the episode and I'm actually looking forward to see where the show goes. I think for me, when it comes to Rusty Davies being subtle and using nuance, I think he's just hit or miss with that, and I think he has been since the beginning. Because even in this episode, I see people saying that both he was subtle and that he wasn't subtle. They think that he was going back and forth between it the whole episode, and he's basically done that forever. Like, there's plenty of episodes with Rusty Davies where he's been subtle as a brick and there is just no nuance and it's pretty boring. And then there are some where it's like, oh, Rusty Davies, you know, you really thought about this, you did a really good job. Because obviously he's a great writer and occasionally everyone's human, they all make mistakes. And sometimes people can get hard-headed about certain things. I know I can be. I think the let go line is probably worse than the binary non-binary, but the binary non-binary is just so much more cheeky that it stands out in my head. But the all you need to do is let go it's just a load of crap, man. Who let him cook? But here's a comment from the great Teddy Bite. What an amazing episode. As someone that loves Ten and Donna, what a treat to have them back. They just feel different enough. Aged, older, and I'd say more mature. Both of them changed since their last meet, but they are both still the dynamic duo we love. The story was fun, even if I, and most people probably, already knew the big twist and Beep didn't fool us. I was still caught off guard by how drastic they have changed the Beep's design after the reveal. The new Sonic features were a choice. The holo screen is a nice addition to make it easier to understand what the Doctor is looking at after analysing. The force field shields, however, definitely a choice. I don't really like the holo screen either, personally. Although it did look like a Doctor Who website game, which I guess that's a pro. When it comes to the new TARDIS, I also have mixed feelings. The idea of the walkways and the doors is lovely, but I feel like it's a little too sterile. Getting real hospital vibes from that thing. That's fair. The fact it's RGB will probably help with that though. The only thing I can say is, can't wait to tune in next week. You and me both, brother. President Lemon says, I really love the part where the Doctor said, Donna, we need to cook math. And then the Doctor killed the Daleks by placing a bomb under Davros' chair. Best TV. That then set up Davros building a new pair of legs and getting scar removal surgery. Rusty Davies pulled a fast one on us. So true. Ding, 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 ding. When the Doctor said, it's doctoring time, that really hit home. God damn it, you guys. Maggie says it was alright. It was definitely very fun to watch. To feel that excitement about it all, however, there were some parts I didn't understand or like. Not my favourite episode, but I like how sometimes you can see 13's personality shine through. Yeah, that's very sweet. I like the Grand Mistress nod. I think my only problem is that then of course it ties into the something a male presenting so-and-so wouldn't understand. Forgetting that the Doctor was the 13th Doctor like literally an hour ago, but I guess he forgot. My favorite part was when David Tennant regenerated into young Tom Baker and single-handedly dismantled a Dalek with his scarf. What if Doctor Who was epic? I personally like the episode. I think for an EP, nope. I think for an ep, it's like B tier at best. Probably. Overall was a fun time. But as a trains individual, I was sometimes cringing hard at what was going on with Rose. The asking pronouns of Meep was fine, but the line from Rose where she's like, and I'm more, I don't know, it would be fine if I was 13, but at 23, just cringy at best. 23?
Damn! I'm sorry.
Which is such a shame because the first half was amazing for trans rap. Hearing Donna speak to Sylvia in the kitchen legit almost had me crying. The rest can live without. Overall, I think it's a good start. Very interested to see what 14 and Donna get into, but still just want to get to 15. I've been super hyped for him. I agree, I'm much more hyped for 15 and always have been than I've been anything to do with David Tennant's return, to be honest, although David Tennant's been pretty damn great. I'm just more so wanting to get onto something new. But let's talk about the scene with Sylvia in the kitchen. I thought people were going to hate this scene, to be honest. I thought it was a neat scene. I wouldn't say it's like particularly amazing or anything, but it did seem to have a little bit more nuance, which is why I thought everyone would jump down its throat and call Rusty Davies a bigot. But no, people seem to like it, which is cool. Okay, now that I've seen it, it was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. It was such a fun episode with a lovely style. Even the new Sonic features were cool and not overused. My only complaint is the shoehorned non-binary thing. Not that I'm bothered by it, it just felt forced and didn't really understand how it was tied in at all. New TARDIS interior was magnificent, and the 14th Doctor's style was refreshingly different from 10. I also loved the design of the Wrath Warriors. They felt classic yet modern. That's the second time we've seen someone say that. The best part was when Donna spilled coffee on the console. My dad and I cracked up because we saw it coming a mile away. Yeah, it was really funny. Great delivery from Catherine Tate. I personally don't mind being the way that that leads us into the next episode. Again, my only real complaint was how abrupt the cut to credits was. Spoilers, kinda bad, but I liked it. I think that's how a lot of people feel. Pacing was weird and the shootout scene was so unnecessarily long. I love the designs of the aliens chasing the Meep. They were so cool. I love the Doctor and Donna. They were obviously the best part of the episode. I'm Trains. I think the train stuff was nice but very awkward. Why do I keep saying that? They could have handled it better. It just seemed very Rusty Davies. Very cis person trying to write. Okay, well, we don't need to say it in that way. That is a bit mean. We don't need to say that about Rusty Davies. He doesn't deserve it. If you guys know me and you know my attitude to the comments, I think it's basically all fair game. It's all a free-for-all. I never delete comments. I never do anything like that. But I do want to lay down a ground rule now. Let's not throw around hurtful labels and accusations. Not specifically the cis thing, but you guys know what I mean. Let's not throw this stuff around because it can stick and it can be really detrimental to people, seriously. If you don't know the way that YouTube comments work, on my end, I let everything up, but YouTube itself can blacklist both comments and users. The way this happens is if you say some really bad words, which obviously I'm not going to say, but you know what I mean. If you say these particular words, then you will get flagged by YouTube, and some of them will be sent to my hidden comments folder. Some of them will just be straight up deleted, and some of them will only be able to be viewed if you click sort by newest for some reason. I don't know. But anyway, sometimes I have the option to restore people's comments, in which case I always do. Even when it's a really stupid comment, even when it's a comment that's practically spam, I always approve every comment that I can. But sometimes they just get deleted and I can't see them. But even more so than that, if you keep saying these particular words on not just my videos, but like on any videos, if you leave comments saying these words multiple times, your channel can get shadow banned and people won't be able to see your comments anymore. I know because this happened to one of my friends who tried leaving comments on my videos and they just weren't showing up. And that's why you got shadow banned. So if that's happening to you, I'm sorry. Try not to use those words in the future. I personally have a policy of just letting everything fly. So obviously I'm not going to delete your comment if you start calling people names and such like that. But I will say that me personally, I want to say like to the community, just to the people listening, let's not do that. That can have real effects. Let's go on with the comment though. I love Rose though. She was great. That Hooniverse shite is pure mank though. What were they on trying to make it so marvelly? Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I don't really like the MCU opening logo. I mean, I said I didn't like the name Hooniverse either. We're just going back to what I said a few weeks ago now. The way they got rid of the Meta Crisis thing was so fucking stupid, but I'm glad it's gone. Me too, man. That shit was dumb as hell. It's always been dumb as hell. I mean, I'm glad it's gone, but I do wish they had done a more satisfying resolution to the people who were actually invested. I feel Rusty Davies wanted to get it out of the way for the rest of the specials. He definitely did. And I'm glad he did because it was done in such a stupid way. Why didn't she just let it go 15 years ago. All of the Rusty Davies defenders will rush to your comment to explain in detail why for some reason that couldn't matter, when in reality, Rusty Davies just forgot. I love the new TARDIS design though, overall better than I thought it would be, and what I hoped it would be. I like this commenter. I would say it's somewhere in between amazing and the best episode ever. It was phenomenal though. A lot of people thought this. I got a lot of comments where people were just saying, it's brilliant, I love it. Here's another one, just watched it, loved the episode. 14 was great, Donna was great, very solid, like A-tier episode of Doctor Who. I'm confused at the choice for 14th to be separated from 10. They act exactly the same, like there wasn't really a difference between the two Doctors besides ages and experience, so the effort made to distinguish them in the marketing and press is strange. It is a little. I'm holding out hope that it will be explained later trademark. Although they did try and put in a thing of being like, oh, the Doctor said that he loves someone, which is different than what the 10th Doctor did. But all that reminded me of was how in Tales of the TARDIS, all of the Doctors were saying, oh, I loved him, oh, I love you, all blah, blah, blah. All that mushy, smushy bullshit. I don't care about that, guys. It was great, but there were some huge buts. I think Rose deserved a bit better from the writing, and there's still 2 more episodes she might appear in. I don't know, I feel like if she's going to appear, she might appear briefly in episode 3. Rose desperately needed more character development. She didn't really seem to have a personality of her own, and was just a generic disaffected person. You know, the usual cliches, I don't fit in, people don't get me, I'm different, it's a carbon copy of every other, this is what it's like to be story. I don't know. I feel like if you're gonna choose between the writing and the performance, I mean, yeah, I personally think that Yasmin Finney's performance was actually pretty good. I've seen a lot of people complain about it. A lot of people have voiced concerns of that. And while I'm not saying, oh, you're so totally wrong, I personally didn't really have a problem with it. I enjoyed the route they went of making her really innocent, right? They had that line at the very beginning where she's like, Mom, look, it's a plane. And then the Doctor's like, that's not a plane, that's a spaceship. He's like, Mom, look, it's a spaceship. I like that stuff. I thought it was delivered pretty well. I think there is just a disconnect in my mind because I think the actress, maybe she was 19 while filming, but she's like 20 now. And what? She's meant to be 14 or 13 or something? No, but for me, after the specials, I kind of hope these characters, the Noble family, I hope that's all done. I hope none of them come back. I mean, I didn't want Donna to come back before, man. But you know what? We're here now. I'm enjoying what's being shown on screen. I'm not going to throw a tantrum and be like, well, I said that I didn't want David Tennant back. No, he's here. He's back. I'm going to enjoy him while he's here. And then when he's gone, I'll complain about how much of a stupid move it was to bring him back. I'm kidding. But let's move on with the rest of the comment. That and the whole non-binary ending was pretty stupid. Rose should be special for being Rose, not only because she's non-binary. Then having Rose and Donna talk down to the Doctor because he's male presenting and can't let things go was just abject sexism. Other than that, I love this episode when it wasn't trying to teach me a lesson that I've been taught 1,000 times before. Sure. It was an average episode until the end where it felt like Negan showed up with Lucille and bludgeoned the shit out of us to make sure we got the message. Now, while I do appreciate the Walking Dead reference, every single time I see someone mention the message, I just roll my eyes. I'm sorry, guys. This culture war shit is too much for me. Rusty Davies did this so much better in his first one with Captain Jack Harkness. His interactions with Eccleston and then his whole Torchwood character development were fantastic. When he and Yanto got together, it felt like a natural progression of the story, not forced and heavy-handed like today. The show died with Capaldi being forced out by Chibnall's, and it is still dead. Capaldi wasn't forced out by Chibnall, man. This is just misinformation. I think a lot of people don't realize how the kind of Doctor Who showrunning gig is. It's a tough job, man. Stephen Moffat desperately wanted to leave. In fact, he probably wanted to leave like 3 years before he did. So it's not like he was forced out. If anything, Chibnall was forced in. He was the only one who wanted the job. And if you see interviews of Chris Chibnall in series 12, where he says that he was practically throwing the job at anyone and everyone turned him down and said no, they didn't want it, so he had to keep going. I think it makes you understand that the job of Doctor Who showrunner isn't as illustrious as it may seem. Although I would say yes, so let me be showrunner next. Thank you, Russell. I had hoped that Jodie would have been a great Doctor, but she was hopeless. Well, at least you had hope. The only thing I'm watching for now is Wilf/Bernard Cribbin, so we can say goodbye to him. Unless the other 2 specials turn things around in a big way, I'm tuning out again like millions of other Whovians, and I won't even give Ncuti Gatwa a chance. Whew, that's tough. I too am very excited to see Bernard Cribbins. If the episode isn't in dedication to him, I will be furious. I must confess. I think it's the only thing that Doctor Who can do that would make me actually angry right now. Because obviously, you know, I exaggerate my criticisms with the episode and I do a bunch of stuff for comedic effect because I'm a YouTube channel. I'm trying to entertain. But none of it really gets under my skin. At most, it makes me roll my eyes. But I would be pissed if Bernard Cribbins, the finale, isn't dedicated to him. Oh, speaking of tuning out, did you see the ratings for Doctor Who came in? Yippee, we're talking about ratings again. I predicted this. I knew it would happen, and it's just as unbearable this time as it was every other time. I hate this conversation. Why do we have to have it every goddamn year, man? So if you don't know, Doctor Who's overnights were 5 million, which has a bunch of people up in arms saying that the show's dead, the show's over. Do I have to point at the sign? I made a whole video, it's 40 minutes long, talking about Doctor Who and its relationship with ratings, and it ended with me predicting that the consolidated figure for the episode would be 7 to 8 million, which is looking to what it's gonna be. And I said in that video that it's not the end of Doctor Who, and that this is what to expect. And yet everyone's still crying, everyone's still complaining that Doctor Who is in the mud. It's not in the mud, people, it's doing perfectly fine. Someone says it was okay. It wouldn't make my top 50 story list, but it also probably wouldn't make my worst 10 list. Definitely doesn't make my worst 10. Probably not even worst 10 specials. But I would agree, for me, it's probably not in the top 200. David Colon says, seeing the David Tennant run around the TARDIS like a child at Christmas is everything to me. Same. I had some mixed feelings on the episode, mostly towards the new Sonic uses. Not in my top nor in my bottom list of Who episodes, but something I enjoyed nonetheless. My biggest takeaway from the episode was the upgrade to the Doctor's Sonic. Creating a bulletproof shield felt on par with K9 level of power that could perhaps lead to a Deus Ex Machina in the future. Again, not to say I disliked it, the new episode or the new Sonic, just some mixed feelings so far. Looking forward to next week's episode. I'm looking forward too, I really am. I feel like this episode already had a totally unrelated Deus Ex Machina, so I'm kind of expecting that each episode will just have the kind of random trademark Rusty Davies ass pull solution, which is fine. I know what I'm getting in for now, I can look over in the future. However, yes, the Sonic is too OP. I hope they break it in a future episode, and then Ncuti Gatwa, he gets a new one that has slightly less powers, because it's just too OP. I said I don't like it when New Who gets super self-indulgent, and that was one of the most self-indulgent episodes. Don't know how casual audiences are supposed to know what the hell was going on at the end. I didn't even know what was happening at the end. I suppose it's another Rusty Davies Deus Ex Machina to add to the pile. I wonder if he'll ever learn. He won't. Jacqueline King was pretty good in this episode. The escape from the Noble's house was one of the coolest action set pieces in the history of the show, but overall a pretty standard New Who episode in terms of quality. Yeah, you guys know me, you know I hate when Doctor Who gets so self-indulgent. And also I was watching with someone who is a casual audience and barely knows anything about Doctor Who, and I think they walked out of the room, which is fine. I wasn't fully expecting them to stick along through the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who. I kind of expected that they were going to leave anyway. But yeah, this one is for the fans. And by for the fans, I mean not the DW fan 91s, the Rusty Davies fans. I wasn't a fan of two things. The new theme song at the end of the episode sounded like breathing, like someone letting out their breath in a huff as part of the beat, and it felt like someone breathing in my ear, and I hated it, Lamau. I also can't say I'm a big fan of the new TARDIS redesign. It's cool in theory, but it looks so sterile and it kind of bothers me. I can understand the appeal of this design, but I can't help feeling a bit disappointed. Perfectly fair, I understand criticisms of the new TARDIS, I really get it. About the breathing, I think that was a mistake. I think that was a mixing error. I hope so. Took me out of it too. I can definitely agree with you. Now, of course, there are some episodes, especially in the post-COVID era, they're just really poorly put together, but there were quite a few editing and continuity mistakes that I caught while watching this episode, which is strange because I wouldn't expect that, but I suppose it is what it is. It's just the reality of the world we live in, right? It's nothing that can really be held against the episode outside of a nitpick. Overall, loved. Perfect as an introductory romp. Was happy with the Meta Crisis solution until Let It Go, though felt a bit cheap. Too easy a solution. Hope there are genuine consequences later. There aren't gonna be, bro. PC stuff is heavy-handed, but I think the current political climate, it needs to be models strong allyship for the kids watching. It's a bit of a creepy thing to say, but whatever. I knew I probably wouldn't like it that much since I'm not a big fan of the 10th Doctor or Donna, but I kind of enjoyed it anyway. The gender stuff probably would have been better, especially in the pronoun scene, but I don't really care. Overall, this is like C tier, but I should rewatch. I think that's a perfectly fair analysis. From this guy Sly in my comment section. This is probably the biggest hater in my whole comment section, by the way. W. There were some things it did better than the strip, some things the strip did better. I loved it, but trying to be objective, I don't think the story was anything all that special in terms of quality, but I'm overjoyed to have it. I must say, I think overall the strip did everything better. I much prefer the strip in every aspect. I prefer the set pieces. I think it's beautiful artwork. I prefer the 4th Doctor to the 14th Doctor. Now, I've heard a lot of people say that, oh, of course the strip is going to be more in detail, it has more time, but the story in the strip isn't really that long. You really can put it in one episode. As I said, the episode should have been 90 minutes, in which case the whole story could have snugly fit in there easily. But overall, I'm gonna have to say I probably do prefer the strip as a story, but I will definitely come back back to the episode more so, because I'm always rewatching the episodes far more than I'm rereading the novelizations, for example. I think I prefer this older Tennant. He seems to have developed much more depth as he got older. Well, there's someone who agrees with me, who thinks that the older Tennant is better. Here's one: as far left as I am, and as pro basically everything I am, I thought the social messaging was a bit preachy. Rose telling everyone not to assume Beep's pronouns. No one talks like that. Yeah, no one talks like that, man. Also, something a male presenting Time Lord would never understand. Fuck off. That being said, most of the time it was pretty good. That scene where Donna's mother didn't know what to call Rose was pretty good. I really appreciate Donna's unconditional support of Rose being the obvious default, and the joke about all disabled people have weapons in their wheelchairs made me chuckle. The story itself was good, the twist got me but was set up. Everything was well shot and overall fun. 8 out of 10. Perfectly fair criticisms and review, in my opinion. I think this is a lot of people's thoughts on the episode. You know, overall very positive. Some parts of it where you're like, that's just not how people speak. I do wonder if the comments in here, but if not, I'll just say it right now. Someone provided a really good alternative where instead of saying, are you assuming his pronouns, Rose instead just says he, ? And then the Doctor can just go on from there, and it's basically the same scene, but it's just a much more natural line. In my opinion, it's far less egregious. I liked it. It was overall pretty enjoyable, but it felt like generic Doctor Who episode instead of a special. Hell yeah, it did. Oh my god, I think this is why I was really taken aback first watch. I was expecting Day of the Doctor. You know what I mean? I was expecting a special, man. This was just a regular ass episode. This feels like Series 14, Episode 3, not 60th Anniversary Special 1. I feel like if you go back to Day of the Doctor, and I've said this before in multiple videos, but it truly is so masterful how effortless Steven Moffat makes it, as if it's not the most stressful writing process in the whole world. The amount of pressure put on him to create this brilliant amalgamation of an episode. Yes, it's not perfect, but due to the conditions of the time, due to how easy he made it, I have nothing but respect for the episode, and I really do love it. And a lot of the endearing elements can make me look over the omitted faults of the episode, and it truly does feel like an anniversary special, whereas this episode just doesn't. It just doesn't feel like a special. There's not really much special about this episode except for the fact that Donna's in it. And Donna's going to be in the next 2 episodes as well. But then again, that isn't really the episode's fault. It's just my expectations, and it's part of the reason why my expectations were so off, was because I was expecting a special. As a trans person, I think the representation of the episode, even if it was binary and non-binary, was kind of dumb and didn't really make sense to me. It's kind of crazy. Everyone seems to not really like it. Suppose that means you were doing a good thing, Rusty Davies. Unless that wasn't your attention, in which case you did something very, very wrong. Hopefully the other ones just get better and better. I agree. Hopefully they do. The Let It Go part was not good, and some dialogue was corny, but I kind of went in expecting this, considering Rusty Davies did say this was supposed to be a fun adventure for the family. He did say that. While there were some issues, it was still an enjoyable story. The Meep was great acting-wise and how it looked, and I'd like the Meep to return one day. So would I. Maybe 14 with this big boss it mentioned. This was special I was least hyped for, so I feel like things can only really go up from here. I definitely agree. This was the part I was least excited for. I think Beep the Meep being introduced here is brilliant because it means that in the future, now as the character's been introduced on screen, it means that the character can be brought back again and again. It's great to have a reoccurring villain in Doctor Who. Now, of course, I don't know if he's going to be a reoccurring villain from now on, but they're really missing a trick if they don't try. And then as this comment says, he says, to be honest, I think the big boss is probably just foreshadowing Neil Patrick Harris and the giggle, which I do think it is as well. I think it's a he will knock 4 times type deal, where it's going to be at the end of the specials. Better than the Chibnall era, but too Hollywood for my liking. I can feel the Disney tendrils slowly surrounding it, ready to suffocate. Yeah. I think my biggest fear with the Disney thing is that it's going to make it so much harder for new people to get into the job, and that eventually Doctor Who may be handed to someone who isn't a fan. And when Doctor Who isn't handed to someone who's a fan, it's just going to crash and burn. Because at the end of the day, New Who is just fan fiction. It was quite Hollywood, I must confess, all the guns, shooting, action, blah blah blah. But as I said, to me it felt more Mandalorian Series 3. That's the vibes I was mainly getting. I thought it was good, not fantastic or best ever, but acceptable. The plot's a bit basic, but it works for a soft reboot of sorts. All the cast are great and no character feels two-dimensional. Some of them do. The show has never looked better. The new titles are great, and the new TARDIS interior is up there with my favourites. Overall, I really enjoyed this episode. It's better than 90% of the stuff that Chibnall era put out. God damn. Looking forward to Wild Blue Yonder. I personally prefer a lot of the Chibnall era to this, I'm not going to hold you. But then again, that is because I actually go back and I rewatch these episodes frequently. When it comes to the show looking better, I really think that Series 11 looked better. I've said in my video I think Series 9 looks better too. I do. I think it has a better visual style. This episode was directed by the same director of Heaven Sent, and I just think think Heaven Sent looks better. I know we're comparing, you know, massive mega fan favorite episode to Shmomo Special released by Russell T Davies, but there is an 8-year difference, I think. And the visual style for Series 11, man, it looks brilliant. And even an episode like Haunting of Villa Diodati in Series 12, that's just such a stunning, beautiful episode that looks far beyond anything that might be coming out in the specials. Just my opinion though, of course, Chibnall era bad. Chibnall, please come back. I may need to rewatch the intro, but was it sick or possibly shy? Felt a bit not too standard, a bit reminiscent of the Series 7B titles. It really is. That's what it reminded me of a lot. Like, obviously going for a certain style, but at the same time looks janky and fan-made. First impressions only. I do still need a what? Did I cut the comment wrong? So I take back my statement that it's my least favourite Doctor Who intro. I actually think I dislike the Capaldi era titles more, because that high screeching sound that makes my ears hurt. But yeah, overall it did really remind me of the Series 7B titles. I wonder if that was intentional or not. Yeah, not gonna lie, it was bad. I loved the new TARDIS set, however the pacing was so off. I didn't really like any of the characters. Highlight was Catherine Tate's acting. It was pretty brave to do a gender related plot. I do see the vision, however I think they missed the mark a little, and I responded saying, I too see the vision, I do. But I think if it was 90 minutes, it would have been much better. I really think that. But I have to call you out. You can't be saying this stuff. Me no likey. Let me bust open the DW Fan 91 rulebook. Yep, it says here, Rule 44, do not judge people based on their skin color or sexuality. We don't do that here. I personally have a hardline stance against treating people any differently due to immutable characteristics. I understand some people have a different policy to me, but that is my line in the sand. Just me personally. Of course, I'm not going to take down your comment. Wilterbix, great name by the way, says, it's fine. Fair. Oh, god damn it. Another classic DW Fan 91 crop. But let's look at this one. Was it as bad as the Rosa Parks episode that Chibnall wrote? No. There's so much wrong with this comment. First time I disliked a community post. What did I do? And Deaded Gamers says, can't wait for Wild Blue Yonder. Me neither. I really can't. I'm so excited for it. Which takes us into our next set of comments. As a non-binary person, that whole little binary, non-binary had me die on the inside. The male presenting line, oh, talk about poor writing. I can't imagine the outrage that would happen if Chibnall wrote this. But then he says the Star Beast was very clearly written by a cisgender. No, guys, stop saying this. You're saying it in a mean way. Don't be mean. Poor Rusty Davies, he's trying his best. It's his community too, you know. But yeah, back to your point. If Chibnall wrote this, there would be riots in the street. But who cares, am I right? Why even mention Chibnall? Ha 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 ha. This episode to me seems like an either you really love it or really don't like it sort of episode. I personally really loved it. I think this is a valid assessment. Was fun. Great seeing the reunion stuff. The emotional core of the episode, not wanting to lose his best friend after so many years, still hits home. Some stuff misses though. Like, I don't know how I feel about the sonic screwdriver making shields. Meat was fun and silly. Meta Crisis is as stupid as ever. Sadly, I think a lot of the good stuff might be drowned out by what? God damn it. But yeah, the Meta Crisis is stupid and it always has been. The weapon wheelchair felt like a third Doctor move that instantly brought me back to his days as unit scientific advisor, which is fitting considering she is the 53rd. Yeah, it feels like a cheeky thing which I actually quite enjoyed. I liked it, I thought it was good, and I'm glad other people liked it. The entire episode could have been David Tennant running around and I still would have just had as much fun. I'm so excited seeing what the next episode brings. I am too, and I think a lot of people will agree with this. It really wasn't hard to get people back on side. You could literally have David Tennant do nothing and people would still go crazy for it. This is a good one. I think the opening scene was just for context for viewers who aren't caught up, which makes sense, but I think they could have done it more organically throughout the episode. And I responded, bro is just chilling in space. They could have had him in the TARDIS or just a monologue over clips. So true. And then I responded, they forgot. The fact that he wasn't floating or anything, like, did he bring a mat? I have so many questions. Yeah, I don't really know what they were cooking with that one. Coffin Flop says, brilliant name by the way. It's weird because to me they did do it fairly organically throughout the episode. Exposition is never going to be entirely organic in a situation like this, but the Doctor explains the Donna situation to the scientific advisor. And then there's the scene with Donna and her mum where she talks about feeling like she's missing something. So I don't know why that stuff needed to be there at the start. It was just bizarre. I love the ep generally, but I feel like there was way too much hand holding with the weird floating exposition directed right at the camera in the beginning when they literally do explain it within the I mean, yeah, this is all stuff I've said before. I completely 100% agree, Coffin Flop. W name. Here's one, I think it was brilliant. My only criticism criticism is that they didn't explain the female Time Lords can't just let go thing. I really like the representation but didn't understand that stuff at all. Well, that's because Kayla Moot, it's because you're not a woman. If you were a woman, you get it. Sorry to break it to you. I do wonder how I'll look at this a year from now, but in this moment, this episode truly meant everything to me. That's very nice. I'm not non-binary, but I am a trans woman and I thought the ending was totally embarrassing. I heavily disliked the bit where Rose said something along the lines of, now I know who I am. You don't just stand on the pavement of other things like that to yourself. It seemed so poorly observed, especially when compared to Donna Silva's conversation. Needed to have been said on the topic. I imagine that in the future, this will be seen as a product of its time. Now, I agree, but it depends on how society moves as a whole. Because I think that there is a world where the thing that actually makes the episode a product of its time is the kitchen scene. And Sylvia voicing that she finds it hard or whatever, that might be the thing that makes it the product of its time in the future. Who knows? But as this person says, I am really looking forward to next week. Someone replied to my comment where I was talking about how I thought this was a good take, and they said, at least that scene will make people mad. That's an up, I guess. And I said, I think making content out of spite just ends. I said, I think making content out of spite just ends with no one happy, which I personally think is true. I think if you're writing something and you're like, oh, this will make people mad, you're going about it the wrong way. I loved it. The fast pace was not a problem to me. The binary thing at the end was about numbers, but yes, it was there to trigger to be misinterpreted as a wind up. At the end of the day, it was fun. It made me laugh, cry, and smile. The spilling of the tea was a little too obvious with her story of why she lost her job just before it happened, but nothing is perfect. So yeah, it actually took me a little while to think about it, but it is just wordplay. It's not meant to be taken seriously. It's the same thing as Once Upon a Time Lord. There is no logic behind it, unlike what one might think. I think the line is just there to be this word sounds like this word, which means this thing, without there being actually any meaning to it, which at some parts is fun and in other parts Joey Underwood says, I think the actual first episode Bernard will feature him will be dedicated to him. And I said, I very much hope so, but I do still think that all three should be. And yes, I think this person is probably right. The third episode will most likely be dedicated to him, but I do think it would have been a better decision to just make all three. This is a great comment. Zay says, what's strange is that the Star Beast wasn't really structured like most New Who eps, in the sense that the story didn't work too hard to introduce the new Doctor, like the 11th Hour, the Christmas Invasion, Deep Breath, the Woman Who Fell to Earth, etc. It was more like Rose, I guess. Gonna guess 15th intro will be more like a classic new Doctor intro. At the same time, the Star Beast didn't feel like an anniversary special. Yeah, just before we move on, I will talk about that. I think that's maybe why I was thrown off so much. Although for years now, we have been hearing people complain about post-regenerative trauma. Even though it's a staple of the show, people just don't like it. So maybe it was a smart move to just cut out that middleman. Although I was really expecting at least one scene with 14 by himself before he meets Donna. I mean, they literally meet in the first 20 seconds of the episode, and then there's that hilariously 80-yard line. I think you can see why I had such trouble getting into the episode in a first watch, because it just randomly starts. They give this terrible CGI backdrop, the title sequence is out of sync, and then the Doctor immediately meets Donna 20 seconds into the episode, and there's a hilariously bad 80-yard line. But that was just first rewatch. Obviously, when you go back in rewatching, you know what's going to happen. You can look over those things much easier. They say in the brackets, I get Tales of the TARDIS more now. Rusty Davies knew this ep wouldn't do the job at celebrating the history of Doctor Who. I mean, I have to admit, the more I think about Tales of the TARDIS, the more complete and utter failure it is. I mean, it's just a complete flop. Yeah, it has some neat character interactions, but the moments themselves, I don't really like them, and I think they're poorly formatted, and I think it doesn't work to introduce new viewers into the show, and it doesn't work for the purpose of old viewers, because just watching the episode in the original form is just objectively better. So the fact that Tales of the TARDIS is meant to satisfy me, I'm not very happy about that. The Star Beast felt like a kind of non-fun time travel Doctor Who adventure with a classic Rusty Davies easy mode ending, all of which reminds me that I generally don't enjoy as much the non-timey-wimey Earthbound adventure episodes, especially when written by Rusty Davies. I think that's perfectly fair. But I was prepared because I just rewatched a bunch of Rusty Davies specials that I didn't like, so I wasn't too surprised or disappointed. Hopefully Rusty Davies is still capable of highs as well as lows, and for weirder episodes to come. And yes, I was taken out of the story by the way Rusty Davies handled the messaging. It's a bummer because up till the end I thought they were doing well, and then the Rose stuff was relatively organic. If he had left it to show don't tell, there would have been less fodder for the anti-woke crowd. But Rusty Davies knew that, so I posed mission accomplished. I think this also ties into the don't write stuff to piss people off, because all it does is pay the bills for the people who get mad as a job. I said in my previous video that I've been going out to bat against these anti-woke YouTubers since way before I had a YouTube channel. These guys have always wound me up, but never once have I thought the solution to getting rid of them is to make more stuff for them to be angry about. You kidding me? The way to get rid of these guys is to deprive them of the attention that they're so desperately seeking. You can tell because because there are occasional dry periods where they're just making up stuff to be outraged at, and that's when they just shrivel up and die. So that's always been my opinion on how to deal with it. I guess the best thing I can say is that all in all, it was Doctor Who and I had fun, mostly. Watching a new episode of Doctor Who because I like Doctor Who. This guy gets it, man. Me and Zay, we're on the same wavelength, buddy. Literally me moment. I didn't like this episode at first. It made me concerned for what's to come, and I think it's important to remember that Rusty Davies isn't going to get it right every time. This is the man who wrote Love and Monsters, but also Midnight. Very true. Rusty Davies has written his fair share of stinkers, just as all showrunners have, but he's also wrote his fair share of bangers. So I think occasionally we have to be more forgiving of him, while also remaining critical of certain choices. Frightening Volleyball says, I feel like this episode would have been better if it was written by Moffat. Now you guys know me, you know I think Moffat is the GOAT, but Moffat's handling of political commentary leaves a lot to be desired, let's just say that. A little underwhelming in some aspects, but Rusty Davies has prioritized character-driven stories, and that is my favourite style of Doctor Who writing. David Tennant's energy is incredible throughout, just like with Jessica Jones, who's really carrying the team. I don't know, I thought the whole cast of Jessica Jones was pretty great. My biggest issue overall was the Deus Ex Machina component. I'm hoping more intelligently written resolves are in the future, as that is my biggest issue with the time of the writing. Oh, and in the past from any of the previous writers, and they're all guilty of it to some degree, some more than others. They definitely are. Stephen Moffat, probably the least overall, but Chris Chibnall, I mean, Power of the Doctor to me kind of has an undo button, but at least it set it up at the start, so it makes more sense than this. To have a made up resolution that doesn't really fit for the 60th is a bit disappointing, but I still watched it, laughed, watched it again, laughed, and watched it one final time and laughed. Same. But again, David Tennant is incredible, so without him holding it up, I don't know if I could really defend it. I think that's a really fair take. This is a great comment. After a second watch, I've realised it sure is a Rusty Davies episode. So true. Joel Mole says, this was a Rusty Davies script, alright. Goofy monsters taken seriously, check. Strong character moments, check. A cop-out resolution, check. Actually funny moments, check. I did enjoy this one. The resolution was definitely clumsy and patronising, and it could have used an extra half an hour. It was still a fun time and feels like Doctor Who is properly back. Chibnall's era was fine, but the script writing was weak. I also have a feeling that the next two specials are going to be better. I'm already hyped for Wild Blue Yonder. I honestly believe the MCU trailer analysis obsession online has made people have insanely high expectation when it comes to seeing stuff that wasn't in the trailer. This has been the first time in years that I've sat down and laughed with Doctor Who, not at, as it was being witty and well written like it used to be. It's a really improvement from the bottom of the barrel MCU humour of series 11 to 13. They really did a good job with this one. I thought the visuals were on par with the past couple of series. Really good. So him talking about the trailer analysis is a reference to me talking in the video about how the Star Beast was entirely spoiled for me because I'd watched the trailer. Now in retrospect, it's unfair for me to say that because obviously as a creator I've watched that trailer more than most people, just because I put it in the background of my videos. I didn't do a trailer analysis video, but at the end of one of my previous videos I did talk about certain parts of the trailer that stuck out to me. But when it comes to Doctor Who, I don't know, I was expecting it to not have all been shown in the trailer. I think maybe the Chibnall era spoiled me. Now in a way, the Chibnall era's devotion to secrecy was bad for the show's health, but it also made the episode so much more enjoyable for me because I had no idea going in what it was going to be about. I think the main one for me was Spyfall Part 1. The reason why I remembered it is because I actually watched it in the same location that I watched The Star Beast. And I remember I watched Spyfall Part 1. Damn, that ending, that shock. I stood up. I literally stood up. I was so excited. I couldn't believe it. And The Star Beast, it couldn't have any of those moments because it gave away everything in the trailer. But yes, it is a little unfair for me as someone, as a mega fan and as a content creator. It is a little unfair of me to be like, oh, but they showed it in the trailer. How does no one remember this? There's going to be plenty of people that haven't even seen the trailer going in watching the episode. I loved it when Rose says it's transing time and pronounced all over the bad guys. Jesus Christ, man. The Donna Noble pregnancy isn't a bug though. The Metacrisis Time Lord energy is always still inside. What she got wiped out was memory, so she couldn't remember how to use it. It sure can get passed on. Once they're sharing it, it can get half of the original to hold on, and they also got each other, so it's easier for them to let go than last time. Or you can simply say, I mean, Donna wasn't given much of a choice to think about the options last time. This is defending the ending. Ziggy Z, I mean this in the nicest way possible, but if this was a Chibnall era episode, you would not be going out to bat for it so much. I do actually understand where they're coming from. I do understand the explanation here that they're trying to get across, but for me, it would only make sense if Donna had been pregnant at the time, because otherwise, I mean, it's a trope, right? It's a trope that they pass it down to their kid and that's how it works, right? I've seen this a million times in media before, but the trope only works if the person was pregnant when they had the power. And so because that's not the case, it just doesn't register in my mind. Because I mean, obviously throughout the whole episode, Rusty Davies is using writing shorthand, and the director is using a lot of visual shorthand so that us, the audience, can be filled in without them having to waste time and slow everything down. Right? That's just efficient. That's just good writing and good directing. So it's not really the audience fault for leaning back on assumed tropes, because that's part of the deal between the writer and the audience, in that that's kind of what you have to do. So when a writer just comes out of left field and just throws in this random mega unconducive sci-fi aspect that just makes no sense, it's not really the audience fault for being like, huh? But anyway, that's just my opinion. I feel like these specials are Rusty Davies getting used to writing Doctor Who again, but not succeeding with the Star Beast. I was enjoying it throughout, but a few hours later, it's meh. His style, tropes, characterization, etc. will definitely be returning in Gatwa's era, but hopefully improved on. I think that's a very fair assessment. I think it's a very good comment. I think it would have been hilarious if they skipped the whole resolution to the Meta-Crisis deal and just had Tennant Donna come back older with no explanation, like Season 6B for the 21st century. You know, the crazy part is that I would have been so down, man. Oh my god. If you don't know what Season 6B is, I made a whole video on it, but damn, I would have preferred that so much. That would have been so sick. What if Doctor Who was epic, man? What if Doctor Who was epic? They need to hire you, Amy Galloway 8285. That's the best idea I've ever heard. I don't know how this looks worse than Jodie's 3 series. Her series is constant close-ups where you can't tell where they are because the camera is in people's noses. Lol. I feel like this is another one of those kind of NPC generated anti-Chibnall hate comment, because I see this comment every time I mention the visuals in the Chibnall era. I get multiple people leave comments saying stuff like, it's just close-ups, it's just close-ups. Gee, I wonder where they got that comment from. You see, someone said it and then everyone just copied it and regurgitated it for the end of time, regardless on whether or not it's true. In fact, let's go through an episode right now and see whether it's true. Okay, here we are with Rosa. I'm using this handy dandy resource, the Tragical History Tour, which have been massively helpful in showing a really easy to digest screen cap archive of pretty much every single shot from the episode. Now, it's not every single shot, but it gives us a pretty good insight. And what we're going to be looking for is close-ups. Now, when we say close-up, I'm not really meaning this. I'm meaning a more, let's see if I can find one. This is a close-up. And we want to see more of those. This is not a close-up. By the way, just look at the lighting in this scene, man. God damn, it looks beautiful. But if we scroll through, we will see there's not many. This counts. As you can see, Ryan is getting confrontational with someone. The person he gets confrontation with, we get to see right up at their face. We get him say, don't you lay your hands on my wife, or something like that. I don't remember the exact line. But it's meant to show just how aggressive this person is. Are these shots seeming like really disorientating to you? Are you looking at these and tking, wow, this is too crazy? Keep in mind, my recording is kind of cropping off a little part of the screen. No, nothing, no, still looking for, yeah, here we go. This is a close-up. We skip ahead, we go here, and we see the Doctor in the bus. This is another close-up. The Doctor's in the bus. It's a claustrophobic environment. All the characters are right next to each other. Ryan standing up. Here's a good shot of seeing what it looks like. Do you see what I mean? Like really claustrophobic, really close up. The camera to get a shot of Jodie Whittaker has to be right in her face. And here we get to the infamous scene. The infamous Jodie Whittaker's era has too many close-up scenes, because look at this, like, look at this close-up. What the hell were they thinking? There's no narrative oh wait, there is a narrative reason. If you don't know, this character Krasko has a neural implant in their head that makes them unable to kill. They literally can't hurt anyone, even if they want, and that's why he has to use the temporal displacer to try and get around it. He's incredibly uncomfortable, so the shot composition is uncomfortable to match the mood of the characters on the screen. Then if we go through the rest of the episode, you'll see not really any close-up, not really any close-up, not really any close-up, not really any close-up, not really any close. There we go. We get a poor close-up on poor Graham looking really sad. These are in the pivotal moments, really tense scenes, just before Graham realizes that he's the one who has to sit. Like, look at this. Poor Graham, look at him, man. He's devastated. And we're going to get to it here. We get the shot of Rosa looking up. There really isn't an extraordinary amount of close-ups. I mean, really, when you go and look at it, there must have been about, like, 8. To me, it seems like a normal amount of close-ups that would be in any episode of Doctor Who. But whatever, who cares about how good episodes look? I mean, this looks terrible. It looks ugly, the lighting's bad, the composition is bad, you know, visual storytelling, that, who cares? Episode's shit, Chibnall era shit. Star Beast was better. God, quit whining. No. The Star Beast episode, 10 out of 10. Power of the Doctor, 0 out of 10. Base department, they didn't pick up. I am sincere with no negative intentions when I asked you about your opinion. You said you enjoyed it. Just after saying you were more negative and will probably give it a 3/4 or 5, I assume out of 10. This sort of left me unsure of your takeaway, although you very wisely did... Did what? What did I do? The DW fan 91 crop strikes again. But I think I can get what he's saying. He's asked me, why was I so negative in the video when I said that I enjoyed it? Well, I think it's because I enjoyed the experience of watching Doctor Who. Doctor Who, even at its lowest, is better than just anything on TV, man. It's the best television show ever made. And so even when it's bad, to an extent, I enjoy it. But what I more so enjoyed was the Beep the Meat Wrath Warrior stuff. And that kind of carried me even when I was bewildered on first watch, let's say. But that's just my opinion. I understand how that may have come across. Of course, it's just my first initial reactions. I hope that people can forgive me for not being as well thought out literally 2 minutes after watching the episode, right? Sometimes it takes me a little while to think about these things, but I think that's natural. I think that's everyone. I'm gonna say more later, but I think your first issue was having expectations. Not just that, expecting it to be at the same level of Power of the Doctor or better? Man, I don't know if that's even possible, especially in a 60-minute runtime. Yeah, my expectations were far off. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know, I suppose I just got caught up in everyone saying, oh, it's going to be way better than the Children Era. It's going to be way better than the Children Era. I was like, well, I really liked the previous episode, and people are gassing this one up so much. I'm hoping that it's going to be as good, if not better. It's not. It's not. Power of the Doctor is, in my opinion, just a brilliant episode, a wonderful celebration of everything I love about the show, with everyone on top form, Chris Chibnall giving us his occasional tropes. Yes, there are some parts of the episode that are shit and lovable, but to me it's the Power of the Doctor. It's the BBC Centenary Special. Similarly to Day of the Doctor, I can look over a lot of its faults because I still think it's brilliant. I found myself enjoying it more than I didn't, but god, that ending, I hate being pandered to. That scene just screams lack of self-awareness. I like to imagine Russell sitting down writing binary, non-binary and think to himself, yup, they're gonna eat this shit up. Very true. Stephen Moffat is the GOAT. Thank you, someone who agrees. Stephen Moffat is the GOAT. If you're watching this, buddy, we love you. The non-binary part isn't forced or trolling. It fits within the plot as her nature is linked to the meta crisis, so she's not a freak. It's a message about difference being power, which Doctor Who has done on a million different occasions. A bit odd to say that it's trolling because it was about trans issues. You absolutely wouldn't and haven't said the same about past stories where the message is also our differences are our strengths. But hey, this one includes non-binary, so it must be forced. This is a bit aggressive, don't you think? This is a bit accusatory. How do you know that I haven't? I mean, I've done a 7-hour video talking about my review of Doctor Who, giving all my opinions on every episode. And I've called out a lot of episodes in the past. I think if you go back and check, when it comes to modern Who, when it comes to classic Who, it's basically I love every episode. So I do wonder if this statement that I haven't called out any episodes about it in the past is true. But when it comes to the word forced specifically, did I use the word forced? I may have. I mean, I don't remember. It's a long time ago. It was like 4 days ago. If I did say it was forced, then it isn't really forced. But I do still stand by the trolling comment. Rusty Davies is trolling, man. Come on, there's no way that you can hear him say binary, non-binary. I think he's not trolling. It's literally just wordplay. It's a joke, right? It's meant to be funny. And part of the punchline, at least to Rusty Davies, is that people are going to get pissed at it. So he is trolling. And in a way, I respect that because you guys know, I've said this a million times, if I was showrunner, I'd just be trolling everyone. I think I said if I was showrunner, I would spend all of the budget on the trailer and then the rest of the show would be made on like £100 budget. The Cybermen would just be people with a bit of tinfoil put on their stomach. But obviously I'm joking around. Rusty Davies is the showrunner of Doctor Who. Sheesh, this is a long one. So this is in reply to me basically saying that he's trolling. By him, I mean Rusty Davies, not the commenter. And they said the Time Lords regenerate into literally a non-binary. It's essentially magic what they regenerate into. That's like saying, oh, it's totally the author winking at us when the 4th Doctor doesn't kill all the Daleks when he has the chance and says, do I have the right? And it's like, yeah, that's the theme of the story and the literal point being spelled out to us. No, it's not. I'm sorry, but I don't want to compare the binary, non-binary scene to the do I have the right scene in Genesis of the Daleks. I've talked enough about why Genesis of the Daleks is so brilliant over the past few days. I really have. I made 2 videos. And so I'm going to have to, on principle, disagree with comparing one of the most interesting and thoughtful lines in that marvelous piece to binary, non-binary. But let's go on. yes, is obvious, but that's the point. And the reason it isn't a forced theme. It's just a theme throughout the episode. It's why we have the scene with Rose talking about feeling like she's from another planet, and the scene where she gets heckled, or the scene where she mentions pronouns, or the scene where the doctor says, I don't know who I am anymore. That's a good catch. Or Rose at the end saying, I know who I am now, and I noticed that. Someone was taking issue with that earlier, weren't they? It's all tied to the theme of identity and what someone's true self is. This kind of leads into what I was saying at the beginning, isn't it? I was saying it was don't judge a book by your cover, but the theme of identity actually really does fit. Everything here is in service of that theme. I think the theme of identity is even more apparent than the theme of our differences are our strengths. It's everywhere in this script. I mean, I can't argue. You're very right. I don't agree with the comparison, but I do agree with all this. Again, you cannot like it, and you obviously don't for whatever reason. Do I? Did I sound like I hated it? But that doesn't make this forced. Well, I assume that because it's in quotation marks, I did say that. A forced element will be the one that doesn't service the plot or its themes, but it's beyond obvious that this one does. It's written this way because it is the theme of the episode. Well, then someone could argue that then the theme is forced, right? I mean, I'm not arguing that, but someone could argue that. I don't really like the assertion for whatever personal reason. There's an implication there which I find a little dirty. Why do all the comments have to be so mean? Babby's first YouTube comment section. Anyway, let's go on to the next comment. This is his third one. I replied to this comment because obviously it's a long comment, man. And I replied saying that comparison isn't very good. And this person said, yes, ignore the rest of my comment. Lamau. I don't think he was actually laughing when he said that. I don't know how you make YouTube vids over analyzing story and yet seem to be reluctant to do it at all when someone makes you feel weird. It made me feel weird at all. LOL. Guys, do you think he's laughing? Luckily, there are still a few Doctor Who YouTubers who actually look at the quality of the storytelling, analyze the actual themes of these episodes. That's me. That's what I do. I'm that YouTuber. Okay, I feel like this is a perfect time for me to tell you guys that people who make YouTube videos actually have lives. Now, my comment, I didn't screenshot it, but it is literally just me saying that's not a good comparison, or that comparison is awful in reference to this part of the comment. And he's getting mad that I didn't write a whole essay in response to his comment. Now, the reason why I didn't write a reply is because I was at a service station writing the comment on data. We are real people too, guys. This hostility is misplaced, and I don't really know what I did or said that made this guy this angry. But as I replied to him, I was planning on replying to the comment in the video. I did say I was gonna do a community reaction. I think this can serve as a learning moment to us all. If I leave a reply onto your comment and you feel a little dissatisfied, you feel, oh, he didn't reply to everything, it may be because I'm saving to talk about it in a video. I did try and specifically mention that I was going to collect a bunch of comments for a community reaction, but I will try even harder next time. I hope this guy is watching, and I hope you like what I had to say. I don't think you're wrong. I got no problem with anything you said whatsoever. But let's get on with the rest of the video. The bring back was amazing, and you slagging it off is just awful. I don't know what the bring back is. I'm just a little sick personally of the casual misandry that pervades New Who and has pervaded it across all three showrunners. Before we get into the rest of the comment, when I think of misandry in New Who, I think of the running gag slap. That's what I think of, because especially between Amy and Rory, that's the main example I think of, because poor Rory got literally domestically abused. Like, that's just domestic abuse there. What, his wife dumps him and then slaps him and then says it's because she loves him. That's just abuse, right? Like that's unhealthy. And character assassination, which is another reason why Asylum of the Daleks is ass cheeks. We still love you though, Moffat. I love you, DW Fan 91, and your video descriptions, flaws and all. Thanks, man. I also disagree with you about the visuals looking worse in the Chibnall era. The last era was pretty much unnecessary. Face zooms in with unneeded blue lens flare. See what I mean about people talking about the close-ups? The Chibnall era does not have an irregular amount of close-ups. You know there were close-ups in this episode too. Look, there's one right there. By the way, I know people don't have an issue with close-ups. They have an issue with repeated use of close-ups. But my argument is that the Chibnall era doesn't have that, and that one random person said it and everyone clung onto it till the end of time. And this is a brilliant one to end on from Lehar S. I think I overall like the episode. There is some stuff I don't like, but the good outweighs the bad. So, still a fun episode. I just hope some of the dialogues aren't nearly as cringe though later. Come on, man. A brilliant comment from a brilliant commenter. I think that's a perfect way to wrap up the video. And do you think this was long enough? Oh my god, I thought the video was going to be shorter than last time, but this recording is coming up to 2 hours. I'm sorry, guys. Unless you like the longer videos, in which case, I hope you enjoyed it. I am really looking forward to Wild Blue Yonder. So much so that no matter what happens, I think I'm just going to enjoy it no matter what. I've already made up my mind. Yep, you can say that I'm biased. Yep, you can say that that makes me unreliable. But the episode's going to have to do a lot of things wrong to make me not like it. Hopefully live commentary should be back next week. So to members, you will be able to get a commentary track of my raw reaction. And speaking of members, if you want to help support the channel, you can click the join button below to gain access to a multitude of perks and benefits, including access to the Discord server, various exclusive member videos, and special teasers for my upcoming projects. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Can you believe it? 92% of people who watch don't subscribe. You're killing me. And a massive thanks to all my members. With that said, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.